everyone, Dr. Rick here with the Relate Well Institute, and we're going to have another conversation about how do people survive in dysfunctional families? I mean, what do the members of a family do to handle the dysfunction? And we're going to take a look at it through an addictive perspective, but hear me, even if it's not an addictive home, you'll see these same patterns merge among the members of a dysfunctional family. All right. I can look back at my family of origin and kind of label who was what based on these family roles. So what we're going to look at now are the roles that the members of a family take. They kind of merge into these defined roles based on research to handle the conflict. All right. So let's talk about the person with the most dysfunction. Let's say it's the addict, the alcoholic, the sex addict, the drug addict. We'll call that person the victim. All right. That is the victim. They're chemically dependent. They got a sex addiction. They got an anger problem. All right. On the outside, they can be very hostile, manipulative. They can be aggressive, a lot of self-pity, controlling, blaming. They don't take responsibility for anything that they do. Folks, they can come across as very charming as well. They can manipulate through, quote, love, and they have a lot of rigid values, all right? I mean, it's their way or the highway. This is right. This is wrong. You shouldn't do this. Problem is a lot of the rigid values, they break themselves. But on the inside, the person who's labeled the victim, the one who's the most dysfunctional, they got a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, a lot of fear, enormous amounts of pain and hurt in their heart. And the way they deal with all of that hurt and pain from their life, whatever happened in their life, going back to childhood possibly, is through their addiction. It's through their dysfunctional behavior, all right? Not that we are saying that we are approving of their dysfunctional behavior, but everybody has to kind of migrate around that person. Think about the planet Saturn, all right? They're the planet, and everybody else in the family are the rings around it. Now, the person who is the chief enabler, all right, usually the spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend. The chief enabler can come across as very self-righteous. They know it's best. They're right. The spouse is wrong. They become highly super responsible, codependent. They want to fix everybody and everything. They can be sarcastic. They can become very passive. They tend to get sick a lot. Why? All that stress they're carrying. Plus, you got kids. You're taking care of the kids. You're taking on all the burden of everybody else because somehow you think it's your job to fix everybody. And so you try and fix people. You overlook things. So you enable things to happen. All right. And a lot of times you hear things from these people like, well, it's just always, I'm the one that works the hardest. I'm the one that does this, right? I try and make things better for everybody, but you never. They can become like a martyr. On the inside of the chief enabler, though, a lot of anger, a lot of hurt, a lot of guilt, very low self-esteem, very low self-worth. Why? They don't know who they are. They find their value and worth in trying to fix others, to be able to control things so they can kind of fix people. They can fix people, i.e. the addict, then they feel better about themselves. The children migrate into certain roles as well. So let's take a look at those. Now, I want to start with me. This is what I did. This was the role that I migrated to for whatever reason. I migrated this road. I was the family hero. The family hero on the outside is the good kid. I stayed out of trouble for the most part. All right. I was a high achiever. I did well in high school. I wanted to get the straight A's. I wanted to do well because if I got a straight A's, then I would hear my dad say, "Oh, I'm proud of you." Right. So you're the good kid. I did everything my dad asked me to do. I hung out with my dad. I'm named after him. Right. I follow the rules. I was always wanting appreciation, always wanting approval. So you think it, and it's very responsible. However, on the inside, low self-worth, no self-worth, actually. very, very low self-esteem, a lot of anger, a lot of guilt, um, a deep sense of I'm not good enough, a deep sense that I'm inadequate, a deep sense that I have no value, a deep sense that I don't matter. But how do I act that pain out? By being the hero. I remember when I would hear my dad say to people, well, this is Ricky, my son. He's he makes our family look good. He's a special boy. He gets good grades. You get it? I would get approval and acceptance by the role of the hero. All that did, it kept me wanting to perform and perform and perform. The only problem is you're not loved for who you are. You're loved for what you do. My dad, by the way, was the chief enabler. All right. He was the victim. He was the one with the anger problem. I personally believe now, looking back, he probably had a sexual addiction as well. Then you have this other one called the lost child. The lost child. This is the child that takes all their hurt and pain, and rather than engage with family, they disconnect from the family. They isolate. All right. So they tend to be shy and quiet. They have a fantasy life a lot of times. They're solitary. They tend to do things mediocre to get by. They don't attach to people. They attach to things. All right. They want to be invisible. If they're around the house, then they're in the room a lot. A lot of times, the lost child, because they're disconnecting, they tend towards computers, numbers, anything I can do that doesn't have to engage people. When they do engage, they don't want big numbers. They want small numbers of people. All right. And again, this person is dealing with pain by withdrawing, but inside they have a lot of rejection, a lot of hurt, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, but they deal with it by isolating. I think that was my brother Don. He always said that he wanted to be invisible. He wanted to be invisible. I want to be noticed. I'm a hero, right? Got to be noticed. Got to do all the right things. Don was the quiet one. He stayed away, and if he did, he was going way back. If you remember, Nintendo, was it Nintendo? The Atari computers you used to hook up to your TV. He started with those. You see, the way the lost child deals with pain is by detaching and pulling away. I engaged, but I had to keep performing. Then there's the one that's called the mascot. When the tension in a family gets too great, something has to break the tension. And that's the role of the mascot. On the outside, the mascot comes across as immature, very fragile, cute, hyperactive. Did you get that? They look like they have ADD. It's not ADD, it's the family role of the mascot. They're distracting. So when tension builds, this is the child, this is the person in the family dynamic that will do something cute or silly to distract everyone from the conflict. That's their role, to make sure that when tension gets bad, they do something silly. They do something stupid. I remember sometimes if there was tension around the dinner table, one time many years ago, I was probably, 13 or 14, was tension around the dinner table during Thanksgiving. You can just feel it. I kind of doubled as the mascot. And I took a cup of water and just poured it on my head and got everybody laughing. What was the purpose? To deflect all the tension. I didn't know back in those days what I was doing. I was fulfilling a role. It was unhealthy because deep inside the mascot, that child, there's a lot of fear, a lot of anxiety, deep insecurities, low self-worth, low self-esteem. But they handle it by being a clown, by being silly, by being hyper. All right. I personally believe that a lot of children who are really a mascot role have been diagnosed by people as ADD, when actually they're just playing out a role in a dysfunctional family. Another role that children migrate towards, or a child will migrate towards, is the one that's called the scapegoat. The scapegoat. All right. This is the one that actually brings the family into therapy. This is the kid that acts out the problems of the family through anger, rebellion. They get in your face. They cause the problems. They tend towards hostility. They tend to be defiant, rule breakers. They get in trouble a lot. They do things that they shouldn't be doing. And but inside the scapegoat is deep rejection, hurt, a lot of guilt, jealousy, anger, low self-worth, low self-esteem. So they take the anger from the dysfunctional family and they act it out. Many will turn to alcohol, promiscuity, sexual promiscuity, drugs. They act out the family pain. But because this one's acting out the family pain, the family says, oh, our problems are because of that kid. So they put that kid in therapy. And we want to fix the kid without fixing the parents who are really the cause of all the dysfunction. You see, it's easier to fix a kid than ask adults to look in the mirror and own their own choices, their own patterns of way of being. And so those are the family roles that you tend to see in dysfunctional families and immature families. Why? Because the adults aren't healthy, mature adults yet. They're actually immature adults. Because see, healthy love requires emotional maturity. Relate well teaches people how to become a healthy, emotionally mature adult so you can love maturely and keep these dysfunctional roles out of your family. So that what rules in your family isn't dysfunction and unhealthy behavior patterns. It's love. It's goodwill. It's respect. It's honoring each other. It's deference to each other. It's humility. It's all the good things that get come across. And so I hope maybe in a small way, this is giving you insight into what are the roles of a dysfunctional family. Now, if you come back after what if you're listening to this and you come back and you start to think about it later and you go, gosh, I was the hero. Maybe you still are the hero. You see, these roles are survival roles. You know what really becomes dysfunctional? Is when you're still living out that survival role as an adult. You have to heal and you have to get out of those dysfunctional roles. Just some thoughts for you. You can learn more about our work and the Relate Well core curriculum at relatewellinstitute.com. If you're a counselor or a pastor and you want to learn how to use the Relate Well core curriculum as a counseling tool, as a mentoring tool, as a coaching tool, there's a clinical link there as well, where we actually teach people online how to use it as a counseling tool. So thank you for listening. We do hope that this has been helpful. Have a great, great rest of your day.